Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got some incredibly important news for all employees in South Africa, so if you're working there or have friends and family who do, you'll definitely want to stick around for this. Starting June 1, 2025, South African employees are set to receive a significant pay rise of 8.9%. Yes, you heard that right, an 8.9% increase in wages, which is one of the most substantial hikes in recent years. This change is expected to impact millions of workers across various industries and sectors, and it's packed with implications for both employees and employers alike. Now, before we dive into the details, let me just say that an increase of this magnitude doesn't happen every day. It reflects a broader economic context in South Africa, from inflation rates to cost of living pressures and ongoing negotiations between labor unions and business representatives. So, it's not just a random number, it's part of a bigger picture aimed at improving the livelihoods of workers while balancing the realities faced by employers. Let's start by breaking down exactly what this 8.9% pay rise means for everyday employees. Essentially, if you're currently earning a salary or wage, from June 1, 2025, you can expect your basic pay to increase by nearly 9%. For someone earning, say, 10,000 South African Rand per month, that means an additional 890 Rand added to your monthly income. This is no small amount when you consider the cumulative effect over the year and how it can help cover rising costs such as food, housing, transportation, and education. But this increase doesn't just affect individuals. The ripple effects will be felt throughout the economy. With more disposable income in the hands of workers, consumer spending is likely to rise. That can boost local businesses, create a more vibrant retail environment, and potentially stimulate job creation in sectors that rely heavily on consumer demand. Of course, there are always concerns about how employers will manage the increased wage bill, but many analysts suggest that the positive impact on consumption and morale could offset some of those costs. This pay rise was agreed upon after lengthy negotiations involving key stakeholders, including trade unions representing millions of workers, employer organizations, and government representatives. These talks often happen annually or biannually as part of collective bargaining processes. What makes this particular increase noteworthy is that it exceeds many earlier predictions, signaling a stronger push by labor groups to secure fair compensation in the face of economic challenges. It's important to understand that the 8.9% increase applies to a wide range of workers but may vary slightly depending on sector agreements and specific employment contracts. Some industries might negotiate slightly different percentages or additional benefits, but the overarching message is clear: wages are going up across the board, starting from June. This brings us to the question many of you might be asking right now: why exactly this 8.9% figure? Well, South Africa has been grappling with rising inflation rates over the past few years. Inflation measures how much prices for goods and services increase, affecting purchasing power. When inflation rises, the real value of salaries can decline, meaning workers can afford less with the same amount of money. This wage adjustment helps bridge that gap, ensuring workers' income keeps pace with or ideally surpasses inflation, so they don't lose out financially. To give you some context, inflation in South Africa has hovered around 6% to 7% in recent years, depending on the month and economic conditions. By granting an 8.9% pay rise, unions and employers are essentially trying to provide a real wage increase, not just a cost of living adjustment. This kind of pay raise is critical for workers struggling to keep up with rising costs, especially those in lower and middle income brackets who spend a larger share of their income on essentials. Another angle to consider is how this pay rise impacts labor relations and workplace morale. For many employees, knowing that their efforts are recognized through fair compensation can boost motivation and productivity. It also reduces labor disputes, strikes, and unrest, which South Africa has occasionally seen in sectors where workers feel underpaid or undervalued. So this 8.9% hike could be a stabilizing factor for companies looking to maintain smooth operations while nurturing a loyal workforce. Of course, with every pay increase, employers have to carefully balance their budgets. For businesses already operating on thin margins, absorbing wage hikes can be challenging. Some might try to offset costs by reducing overtime hours, slowing hiring, or passing on price increases to customers. However, many companies also recognize that paying workers fairly can reduce turnover, improve efficiency, and ultimately benefit the bottom line. It's a complex balancing act, but one that South African employers will need to navigate thoughtfully. Now, let's talk about how this pay rise fits into the broader South African economic landscape. The country is still recovering from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which disrupted industries, employment, and government revenue streams. Inflationary pressures have been compounded by global factors such as supply chain disruptions and energy costs. Against this backdrop, wage increases are a critical part of supporting household incomes and driving economic recovery. Interestingly, this pay rise also reflects South Africa's commitment to narrowing income inequality, which remains one of the highest in the world. By lifting wages across a broad spectrum of workers, especially those in lower wage jobs, the government and labor representatives are taking steps to improve social equity. It's not a silver bullet solution to deep-rooted inequality, but it's a significant and positive move in the right direction. Many South African workers are employed in sectors like retail, manufacturing, mining, and public services, which have all been impacted differently by economic trends. This pay rise is likely to have a particularly strong effect on industries that employ large numbers of lower-paid workers. For instance, retail workers will see more money to spend on goods and services, while mining employees, who often face demanding conditions, will benefit from a better standard of living. So, how can employees make the most of this pay rise? First and foremost, it's an opportunity to reassess personal budgets and financial plans. With extra income coming in, workers might want to consider paying down debt, boosting savings, or investing in skills development or education. Given the uncertainties in the global economy, having a financial cushion is always a smart move. For employers, this is a good time to engage with their workforce, communicate transparently about the pay rise, and look for ways to enhance employee satisfaction beyond just wages, such as through benefits, career progression opportunities, and positive workplace culture. Happy employees are more productive and more likely to stay with the company, reducing recruitment costs and maintaining institutional knowledge. It's also worth mentioning that this pay rise aligns with broader trends across the African continent, where governments and businesses are increasingly recognizing the need to provide fair wages to support economic development and social stability. South Africa is often seen as a bellwether for the region, so this move might encourage similar adjustments in neighboring countries. From a policy perspective, the government has a role to play in supporting wage growth while maintaining economic competitiveness. This includes investing in infrastructure, education, and innovation to create an environment where businesses can thrive and afford to pay their workers well. The 8.9% pay rise is just one piece of this larger economic puzzle. There are, however, some risks to be mindful of. If wage increases outpace productivity gains, there could be inflationary pressures that push prices higher, potentially offsetting the benefits for workers. That's why balanced negotiations and continued investment in skills and technology are vital to ensuring that wage hikes translate into real improvements in living standards. Looking ahead, Many experts will be watching closely how this pay rise impacts employment levels, inflation, and economic growth in South Africa over the coming months. Will it encourage more spending and investment? Will it reduce poverty and improve quality of life? These are big questions that will unfold in real time. In the meantime, if you're an employee in South Africa, this news is definitely something to celebrate and plan around. Make sure you check with your HR department or union representatives to confirm how the pay rise applies to your specific job and contract. And if you're an employer, it's time to start budgeting and preparing for this adjustment to keep your team motivated and your business healthy. To wrap it up, the 8.9% pay rise starting June 1, 2025, represents a meaningful step toward fairer wages, better living standards, and a more robust economy in South Africa. It reflects the power of collective bargaining, the necessity of keeping pace with inflation, and the ongoing efforts to build a more equitable society. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future updates like this one. And drop a comment below. How do you think this pay rise will affect your life or business? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed and empowered.